Welcome to the Parenting Successful Teens, the podcast that cuts through the overwhelm and stress of this phase and offers parents simple, practical, cognitive, science-based strategies for keeping their teens on track. Join Master Coach and real-life mom, Allie Irwin, to talk about real teens, real problems, and the skills it takes to raise successful adults.
I have a question for you. What if suffering as a parent of a teenager was optional? I've been thinking about it ever since I watched this comedy clip on how God makes teenagers mean so that you can let them go. And it's an old clip, but it's been circulating Facebook again, and it's funny, but it got me thinking. And the point of the clip is that God knows that you are grieving at the idea that, this person that you've loved and sacrificed and parented for all these years, that you're grieving at the thought of them leaving. And so he makes them just as mean as possible so that you will be able to let them leave home. And the audience, it's like at a comedy club, and the audience just roars with laughter, like knowing laughter, like everyone's in on the joke, because this idea that God makes teenagers mean so that you can leave, to them it feels like a common truth. And in real life, I talked to a father this week who confided in me that he can't wait for his son to move out in the fall. And after he said it, he got a little sheepish and he said, I know I shouldn't say this, but I just can't wait for him to leave home. And well, there's a whole group of people that feel that way. There's another whole group of people on the opposite end of the spectrum. I have another friend that posted on Facebook that every time she thinks about her daughter graduating this year, she just breaks down into tears. And she was saying she just loves her daughter so much that she can't imagine how empty the house is going to be without her home. And so if you look at those two people, they're kind of like on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of, how they're feeling about their son or daughter graduating. You have on one end the parent who is walking on eggshells around their mean teenager. And on the other end, you have the parent that stopped wearing mascara because of all the tears. And the thing that they have in common, even though they're presenting on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, the thing that they have in common is that they're both suffering. And I find myself, when I'm not managing my mind, I find myself having those thoughts too. As I scroll through my Facebook feed, maybe the moral of this podcast is I should just stay off Facebook. But as I scroll through my Facebook feed and see all of my friends' kids coming home for the summer, I get the thought that I'm missing out. My daughter's going to stay on campus for the summer. She's got 2 jobs lined up and a research project, and she's taking classes. And while I'm really excited about and proud of her for all the things that she's creating for herself, I feel like when I see my friends post pictures of them with their kids, a little bit I feel like I'm missing out. And I think thoughts like, why did I let my daughter stay on campus for the summer? Why didn't I insist that she come home? Why do other parents get the summer with their kids? And then once that train of thought leaves the station, then I start throwing every other thing that I think I'm missing out on in with that. And I start complaining to myself, why do other parents get holidays for their kids? So now I'm spiraling and throwing in the fact that my son can never come home for Christmas because he's a barber and Christmas is their busy season. And I really I start complaining in my head and say, what did I do wrong? Why aren't my kids coming home? And those thoughts feel terrible. I'm missing out on some sort of reward I was supposed to get for all those school lunches I packed and all the carpools I drove. And then my brain goes to why did I sit through all those freezing cold play spring lacrosse games, if I wasn't going to lead to warm family Christmases. Can you feel how heated that makes me? Because once I get in that train of thought, I'm throwing everything in. I'm kitchen sinking all of the things that I did that were supposed to lead to the reward of, being together as an adult. And once that train of thought leaves the station, it goes nowhere good. And so what I'd like to propose today is actually really simple. It's the idea of not getting on that train of thought. On purpose, noticing what you're thinking and choosing to think something different. Okay? So to use a train analogy again, if you know that feeling terrible is the only place that train of thought goes, don't get on the train. Okay? Just notice yourself. Notice the thoughts you're thinking and know that you can choose what you think. Okay? So going back to my example of, my daughter being away for the summer, when I noticed I was having those thoughts and noticing that feeling of sadness and disappointment rising up, I stopped myself and reminded myself that I choose what I think. I'm in charge. I know how the system works. And I know that pain is part of life, but suffering is created from our thoughts about that pain. Okay, those are two separate things. Pain is part of life, but suffering is created by resisting that natural pain of separation. Okay? So I know that loving my kids the way I do, I'm going to have feelings of sadness. I'm going to miss my daughter when she loads up the car and heads back to school. But when I notice myself having those very natural human feelings of sadness, instead of thinking about how much I'm going to miss her and how it's not fair and seeing my friends' pictures, I can choose instead to focus on all the things that are great about this situation. I can choose to think thoughts that create feelings of pride right alongside missing her. And that is so much better. Okay, that's when you leave just sadness and head into the bittersweet territory, which actually feels so much better. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm allowing the natural feelings of sadness, but I'm not allowing myself to start throwing all kinds of thoughts about that sadness that make me feel worse. Okay, I'm putting myself on a different train and starting to think thoughts like, it's amazing that she lined up a research project for the summer as a freshman. It's amazing that she is willing to work 2 or 3 jobs to make it possible. It's amazing that she gets to do a trial run at living in an apartment in a low stakes way. Okay, she gets to do a summer sublet instead of committing to a whole year lease. And so she'll know, going forward if she wants to live in the dorms or if she wants to be in, an apartment for like the coming years. I could choose to think about how happy I am that she loves school. She can't wait to get back, that she's found a place that she truly enjoys being. She literally misses taking classes and can't wait to get back. I could be proud that she's independent. And then when I start thinking all of those thoughts, and again, I'm sure you can hear the difference in my voice. Like I get happy and proud when I think about all of those things. And as I'm thinking those thoughts, I remember that I stayed on campus the summer after my freshman year. Isn't that funny? When I was distracted by the sinkhole of negative thoughts about how unfair it was that I wasn't going to get to spend time with her, I had completely forgotten that I had a similar summer after my freshman year. And then when I remember that, I can tap into all the feelings I had about being so excited to get back to school. and so excited about the life I'd created on campus. And now as a mom, I can get excited at the memory of that, thinking about how my daughter probably feels the same way. And when I remember that, and I'm feeling excited about her future, instead of thinking that I did something wrong, that she's not home for the summer, I start thinking that it means I did a good job because she's so independent and has created a life for herself that she's so excited about. I mean, isn't that what we're all trying to do here? We're all trying to raise happy, successful teens, and that's exactly what she is. She's a happy, successful teen. And that shift in thought pops my sort of shitty thought bubble from earlier. And instead of squandering the week, that we had when she was home, instead of squandering that week moping about the summer I wouldn't have, I set about enjoying the time we did have together. And that time was all the sweeter because limited. And that's the power of choosing your purpose. You get to enjoy the time you have instead of wishing it was different. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is to think about a situation that you're having with your teens where you feel like you're really suffering. And I want you to take just a second and notice the thoughts that you're having about that situation. And then I want you to think about them like a train, like you're on a train of thought. Okay? And I want you to think about that train is headed to a destination and decide, is that train of thought going someplace that you want to go? Okay? Like I said with my example, my thoughts about how my summer should be different and how I was missing out on something I was supposed to have. That train of thought, the only place it can go is frustration and disappointment and anger and moping. Okay, so what I did is I got off that train of thought and I got on a different train of thought that was headed someplace that I wanted to go. Appreciation, pride, loving, connection. And then I, on purpose, thoughts that would take me in that direction. Okay. Those were the thoughts like, isn't it amazing that she lined up not only one research project, but she had 2 professors ask her to help? Isn't it amazing that she's willing to work 2 or 3 jobs to pull it off? Isn't it amazing? I'm so happy and proud that she found a school that she loves so much. So think about your situation and what are the thoughts that you could think about your current situation that would put you on a train headed someplace that you want to go. Okay? And if you need help with this, if you are really suffering, sometimes this practice can be a challenge. And maybe you would like some help. I have free half-an-hour calls. You and I could talk about your current situation and where you're suffering and how to lessen that suffering so that you can use this time with your teenagers to enjoy it. So that you can use this time with your teenagers to build the strong relationship that you want to have so that you can be parenting in the way that you want to parent. And frankly, so that you can enjoy yourself a whole lot more. If you want one of these calls, you can either email me at parentingsuccessfulteens@gmail.com. That's an email that I set up just for the podcast. Or you can look in the show notes. I have a link to my scheduler and you can grab one of those free calls. Okay, we'll hop on the phone and we'll talk about your situation and I will help you see it in a different way. I will help you get off the train of thought that you're currently on and onto a train that leads to a better destination, a closer relationship, more parental influence, more leadership in your family, and a whole lot more fun. Alrighty, have a great week, everybody.